In March of the Machine, there's a lot of splashy pieces that take the spotlight. Reprint legends, transforming Praetors, team up heroes. But today, I want to talk about something much more nuts and bolts. Some of the secret sauce that makes the set work. Often it's the tiny pillars of a set that support the giants standing on them, and this is no exception. Good morning, Magic. I'm Gavin Verhey from Wizards of the Coast, and to tell today's story, we need to go back to 2002. While Kelly Clarkson was winning American Idol and Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring was winning Oscars, the Magic team was toiling away on the next batch of sets they hoped would be winners themselves: Scourge and Mirrodin. Designer Brian Tinsman, who would go on to lead sets like Time Spiral and Rise of the Eldrazi, was on both Scourge and Mirrodin's teams and had an outside-the-box new mechanic he was pitching. The cards worked like this. You could pay a cost and discard them to create a token land and put it onto the battlefield. It counted as your land play for the turn, and the token made colorless mana. This helped make sure you could hit your land drops while giving you flexibility. There were a few problems with this idea. How would the rules handle the idea of spending a land drop? Was this really the place to do Magic's first non-creature tokens? Would it be confusing to play and tap them? Keep in mind, by the way, this was back before tokens showed up in booster packs, and most people just used their dice to represent tokens. Okay, time out for a total aside here. To this day, token lands are still a contentious game design topic. I, personally, am for trying them out on cards, especially ones that repeatedly get lands. That's what Generated Horizons, a card I made in Mystery Booster, was getting at. It reduces all the searching and shuffling you have to do and also opens up some design space. Imagine a evolving wild style card that could sacrifice to create a basic land token of your choice. We finally did just open the door slightly to this with Awake in the Woods, though those are creatures too. What do you think about this? Okay, but I digress. Back to the story. Needless to say, if we're still talking about it now, they did not crack open the token land button back in 2002. They actually tried some other ideas. For example, the Mirrodin team tried putting the card upside down onto the battlefield as a land, but that was really confusing with Morph Around at the same time. But Brian's little secret was that he actually pitched it to both Scourge and Mirrodin teams without the other knowing. And yeah, it was a bit awkward when the two teams suddenly found out both of them had been working with the same mechanic for months. Things were much more siloed back then. But while Mirrodin went a little wackier with trying those upside down cards and didn't crack the case, Scourge ended up finding something they liked by taking a step back and doing something simple, just searching your library for a land. And thus, Landcycling was born. Not even called cycling originally, Mark Rosewater strongly petitioned that it be a kind of cycling, in part so it would interact with the other cycling rewards in the block, like Astral Slide. Plus, just make it more clear how it worked. Players knew what cycling did, and this just guaranteed you a land instead of a random card. And though Scourge gets my vote for one of the least coherent sets of all time, to recap, its three themes are Creature Types Matter, telling you to play a bunch of cheap creatures, Storm, which wants you to play a spell-heavy deck and cast a bunch of spells in one turn, and High Mana Cost Matters, which wants you to spend your turns playing a single big spell. Yeah, it does get something right here. These land cycling cards are perfect to support the High Mana Cost Matters theme. A card like Noble Templar is neither a superb rate for a creature or for mana fixing, but early game, it can help you hit your land drops or even hit your later land drops for your actual huge creature. And late game, when you already have hit your land drops, you can slam it down as a decent threat. That also lets you draw a boatload of cards off Rush of Knowledge to boot. There were only 7 of them in the set, but all the commons and uncommons played a huge role in Limited. And though it doesn't look like much today, the one rare, Eternal Dragon, ended up being one of the strongest cards in the set. I love it and played mini decks with 4 Eternal Dragon. It's the ultimate do nothing forever and then eventually kill someone with a 5/5 card. Ah, perfect Magic. You wouldn't know it playing Onslaught Block Limited as you cast big threats or tried to assemble your zombie deck, but land cycling was just in the background, making things a little bit better. And so in 2009, we brought it back with Conflux. Shards of ALARA had cycling and was a 3-color set, and so the block could use the mana fixing. But the twist here was that instead of looking for a specific land type, this could get you anything. They became a great way to splash off color. Your Traumatic Visions could go at you whatever splash you had, and these became linchpin cards for enabling splashes, even getting reprinted in Modern Masters and Conspiracy Take the Crown as well. Some of their effects are minor, like gaining some life, but still good enough to get into your deck and then be cast late game. if you absolutely need to. ALARA REBORN also had land cycling, but went back to specific basic land cycling of 2 different land types on 1 card. Given that ALARA REBORN was the all multicolored set, literally every single card in the set was at least 2 colors, it is a little weird to do this with the double land cycling, but here's a big reason why. Imagine they just got any basic land instead of specific ones. With the colorless cycling costs, that means people could just play them fully off color to go get a land, which is certainly weird. Pale Recluse would probably make it into your Grixis deck sometimes. Wacky. In general, you can expect the rules around these kinds of cycling to be like this. Specific land cycling can be colorless because the idea is it helps you fix your colors. Shoreline Ranger finding you an island when you don't have one yet is good news. On the other hand, basic land cycling needs to be color locked because of the flexibility and so that you don't just play them off color as 2-mana Lay of the Lands. Personally, of the 2, I prefer specific land cycling. Searching for any basic for fixing is so meaningful enough that the effects on those cards have to be pretty weak, such as gaining 8 life on Sylvan Bounty, and you're mostly just playing them as Lay of the Lands. They make your splashes work almost a little too easily and creep on what green can do in the set. I much prefer the rates we give you on specific land cycling and the interesting gameplay of sometimes using them to help you splash a specific color, but then casting them if you've drawn that color already. But what do you think of the 2? Anyway, back to the timeline. Immediately breaking the rules I just set forth, we saw basic land cycling in Commander 2016 to help make those 4-color mana bases work and give you some extra late game spells. The difference here, however, is that in Commander, the colors actually do lock you. You can't put Migratory Root into your Jund deck to fix your colors because of Commander color identity. Still a little weird in larger Magic from a design perspective, but considering you aren't exactly jamming these cards in Legacy, ultimately a fine place to deviate. Ash Barrens also shows up here and has become an all-star, a land that's basically better than Evolving Wilds in most situations. Fortunately, it's a land, so fixing your colors is kind of what they do anyway. Aside from the 2 rare ones in the Strixhaven themed Commander 2021, we'd see basic land cycling again in Modern Horizons 2, creating an updated cycle over the original Conflux ones and using the same principles there to help make the limited format a little bit smoother. There's also Timeless Dragon as a loving reference to Eternal Dragon and Sojourner's Companion to do artifact land cycling as an adorable Horizons twist. Less adorable when we'd go on to ban in Pauper, but hey. Anyway, all of this brings us up to today. As I'm sure you've realized where this is heading, in March of the Machine we have 7 land cycling cards. These harken back to the original Scourge ones in style and philosophy. Expensive creatures you can cycle away early or play later on. And March of the Machine is a set where we really wanted you to have plenty of big and exciting plays, where you might want to splash a Gold Battle or Multiverse Legend, where you just need to hit your land drops because games go long. It's a set full of big dreams to live, and these simple cards are glue that help you live it. Plus, playing Gloomfang Mauler as a 7/7 menace isn't anything to shrug off either. Do note the double mana pips on some of them though. It's harder to have some of these fix your splash and also potentially be your splash this time around. A small little design thing there you might not have noticed. So, what does the future hold for land cycling? Well, a few months ago, I talked about Flashback and how we can now use it in sets if we need it instead of writing it out in a long and confusing way. The same is now true for land cycling. It's just a good mechanic we want to use to make Limited better. You can definitely expect to see it in draft sets in the future. In fact, I'll even just let you know now that you can expect to see it again this year. Where? I'll let you guess at that. Post them below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this look into a simple thing that makes your games just a little bit better. Enjoy March of the Machine Limited, and I'll talk with you again soon. Until next time, may your cards be good both early and late game. You got this. And speaking of cheap tokens, Black-Green is a mid-range deck that takes advantage of incubating. You'll want cards to create incubate tokens, of course, like Converter Beast and Traumatic Revelation, but something less apparent is this deck is very mana hungry because of its need to transform its incubators. So something like Blighted Burgeoning bridges the gap perfectly.